Success is not final, failure is not fatal, and it is the courage to continue that matters the most. So let me know in the comment section if you guys know where that quote is from. I throw you a little bit of a curveball here. Dear entrepreneurs, it's Roberto, and today's episode is about what success actually looks like. And on top of that, because this is hashtag real talk, I'm actually going to try to do this entire episode completely unedited and without jump cuts. So let's see if I can actually succeed in that endeavor, which is an interesting pivot. Let's talk about what real success looks like and what that actually means. In my mind, one clear definition of success is a measure of whether or not you achieved your intended outcome through your actions. And I want you to break that down specifically. Whether or not you achieved your intended outcome through your actions. Let's really drill down into that there. So that would mean that success is personal to the individual based on what their plans and intentions were. That's something important to recognize, because the thing is, society tries to define success for us. Society tries to define success by what tax bracket you're in, what your job title is, what your pedigree is, as in what school did you go to, what family do you belong to, where are you from in the world. All of these things society uses in the form of optics to help us determine our success and to help us rank ourselves accordingly and to compare ourselves to other people and to define success that way. I'm going to get super dark and real with you guys. In my life, as far as I'm concerned, everything that I do that is a success is gravy. It's icing on the cake, because I've already achieved my greatest success in life a long time ago. I've already done the thing that I think is probably the most important thing that I could do and achieve. I've already won the greatest battle I could have ever possibly hoped to win. You know what my greatest accomplishment, my greatest success in life was? It was getting to a point to where I love myself enough to stop thinking on a daily basis about committing suicide. Yeah, I got super dark there, and it's something I've talked about in vlogs before, but I'm being very real with you guys. My ability to wake up every day and to want to be here, to love myself that much, and to care about other people in my life that much, that I want to be here, that I'm excited and happy to be here, and that I don't spend every hour thinking about how I can end my life. That is a real success for me. That is my greatest accomplishment. That is my greatest victory of all time. And so there is nothing that I'm going to do, for the most part, unless it's bring children into this world, that's going to top and beat that. There just isn't. And I think that that is a very important thing to acknowledge, because there's so many people that are literally killing themselves for the optics, that are giving away their life and experiencing hardship and misery and making themselves depressed, anxious, unhealthy in order to achieve success. Everybody that I know on some level is doing this, with the exception of very few people. They're literally making Faustian bargains. They're making what you would call deals with the devil. And their devil isn't some fictional horned creature, in the bowels of hell with fire and brimstone. Their devil is the misery that they're accepting in their lives in exchange for money, in exchange for prestige, in exchange for the appreciation or gratitude of others. For some people, it's for vanity and for fame, and they're making themselves miserable. They're living their lives in quiet desperation, doing things that they don't love to get things that don't make them any happier or any closer to being happy or satisfied or self-actualized, or that help them love themselves more, or the love they have for themselves is completely based on very superficial things that will go away in an instant. And I think that that is a conversation that most entrepreneurs, that most YouTubers, that most people in general are not embracing and are not ready to have and are not comfortable to talk about. I'm not even the most comfortable person in the world to talk about these things, but I wanted to do this unedited and challenge myself, because I think that it matters that much. I think it's that important when I look at people and the conversations I have with people, and when I actually sometimes secretly take a harder look at the lives of my friends, family members, contemporaries. I look at what they're doing, and I listen to the things that they told me, and I think about the things that where I saw them light up or where they were the happiest in their life, and I see these micro moments of pure bliss and pure joy, and then I look at their day to day, it's devastating for me. It is soul crushing for me to see that in their mind, success is if they can just get this promotion at work. And when they get it, they're not even happy. Because then all the things that go with that and all the problems that they had up until that moment and all the sacrifices they made, all that stuff is still there waiting for them. They're not any happier. But when I see them in the park and they're playing with their kid, I see what real happiness looks like for them, and what they're doing is not facilitating giving themselves more of that. And I know that we all have bills to pay. I live in the real world. I pay those bills too. And I realized that when I learned to, first of all, love myself and accept myself, I was able to embrace who I am, what makes me happy, and I was able to answer something very important for myself. If I was going to do something for 100 or 1,000 years, if some malevolent deity came down and tried to trick me and say, okay, understand that I can make your greatest, whatever wish you have come true. What do you want? I figured out how to be very specific and very intentional about how I would answer that question as to what I want. I spent hours upon hours with a pencil and a piece of paper architecting and designing a life for myself and deciding what would truly make me happy, what would make me excited and challenged and enthusiastic about my life every day. And when I figured that out, I figured out what I needed to cut out of my life that was keeping me away from that. What was I spending time on that wasn't moving me any closer to that outcome, to that journey, to that version of my life? And when I was able to do that, when I was able to realize that, wow, the people that I work for and that I work with are not adding value to my life. Wow, these relationships in my personal life are not adding value. Wow, these habits are horrible for me and I need to make real changes here. When I realized that, I had to decide whether or not I was going to take action or not, whether I was committed to actually living and enjoying this life that I planned for myself, and whether I really deserved it. And once I accepted that I do believe in that life, I do want that life, it is possible, and I do deserve it, I was able to say, then it's time to just go to work, Roberto. And guess what? It's the work that I was excited about and that I was proud of and that was going to really make me look forward to waking up each and every morning instead of dreading it. I spent years in the corporate world dreading going into the office, dreading working with coworkers, working with supervisors, working with employees, working with clients, working with people in my department under me. It felt like every conversation I had sometimes that someone was punching me in my mouth. Every time. I felt every time that I walked in the door, a piece of my soul was being chipped away. And it's because it wasn't so horrible what I was actually doing. It was that it went so much against the grain of who I was and what I wanted for myself. And it's because deep down, I knew that this is not what was making me happy. This is not what success looks like. Success is about what you actually are self-aware about, your intentions, what you want, what your grand plans are, and whether or not you are taking the actions and delivering on the results that correlate with what your intentions were. If my intention was to lose, no, actually, let's go the opposite route of that. If my intention is, which it is to gain 15 pounds doing things that are healthy so I can get, more muscle, hashtag these guns. If that's the case, then are my actions leading up to that, or did I get a successful result? And so that matters. If my intention was, okay, be in the gym 2 to 3 times a week, that's a very clear way for me to measure success. Did I commit and discipline myself to not making excuses and showing up to the gym 2 to 3 times a week? If I did, I was successful in that endeavor. If I didn't, then I was not. And I still need to double down and make those changes so that my actions and results align to that key performance indicator of you showed up and you did the 30 or hour-minute workout that you signed on for, and you did it. So then I'm a man of my word, and that would be success, and it would be me holding myself accountable. That's success. So it's about delivering, right? It's about your intentions. If my result that I wanted after that was that I wanted to, in 30 or 60 days, gain that extra weight through, muscle mass and doing the right things and eating healthy, then I could measure that. And if I didn't succeed, I could reevaluate how close I got and whether it's a matter of more effort was needed here or a different approach. And so that would help me become successful. Not, oh, well, you didn't succeed, so you failed. The narrative of failure, again, failure isn't fatal. Failure is an eventuality, it's an inevitability, and more often than not, it is part of the process of the work of success. Success requires failure, because if you don't fail, you don't learn. There are so many people that are paralyzed by the fear of failure right now. You're watching this, and I guarantee you there's something that you're not doing that you really need to be doing that you're scared to do, because what if you fail? But I would challenge you, what if you don't? What if you do that thing and it is successful? What if you give up an hour every day or every evening or 3 or 5 times out of the week to do something that you think can fundamentally change your life, whether it's start a website, start a YouTube channel, start selling stuff on eBay, whatever it is? What if you did that thing, and what if it worked? And what if it worked better than you expected? What then? Would you say, oh, I guess that worked? Would you double down? Would you learn from that and would you go forward? Or would you say, oh, well, I guess that was a fluke then? Would you take the example of that? And if it failed, would you learn from that lesson? Would you say, I didn't get what I wanted, but I learned something here that is really interesting, and I might need to pursue that or put a little bit more time, or I came really close. That matters. That matters. It matters so much. We spend so much time evaluating results and equating that with success that we don't respect the process of what it takes to be successful anymore, and we don't respect failure anymore. I am more interested in hearing how somebody utilized and capitalized on a failure and turned it into a success eventually than someone that was met with easy and immediate success, because I can't learn from that. Do you know why I admire Steve Jobs as an entrepreneur so much? It's because I can look at his successes and his failures and see a cautionary tale in that. There are warning signs in his success, and there are things that if you take from his failures that can help you so much, so much. Steve Jobs' ousting from Apple is part of the reason that in the type of businesses I do, and even the ones I plan for the future, to where I am really genuinely looking hard at whether or not I want to take any kind of outside investment and be very careful about control. And a lot of entrepreneurs, if you're watching this right now, you know that letting anyone else be the majority shareholder in your company, or not putting yourself in a position to where you have where you end up with like non-voting shares. That happened to Richard Branson, unfortunately, because, as somebody not born in the States, but having a business here in the U.S., he had to accept that some of his shares would be non-voting shares, and he wasn't able to control the sale of Virgin America, and that matters. So I take cautionary tales from other people's failure, and I use that to reverse engineer success for myself to say, okay, I can learn from someone else's failure. And they learn from their failures as well. They learned to position better. When Steve Jobs came back in the second go round, he was able to clean house and start over with a brand new board for the most part, and it's because he learned his lesson the first time. He was able to learn. As a company, Apple learned from its direction and going very much against the grain of its soul, that there was a costly lesson there and it didn't resonate with end users. And so it learned from those lessons and it doubled down on building a culture that's very hard for people to leave the Apple ecosystem. And Apple fans, even when stuff is bad, defend it adamantly because they learned something valuable that allowed them to create a brand that has a cult-like following. And that's something we can all learn from both their successes and from their failures. If we look at all of the people throughout history that we admire, there's a lot to be learned, not just from their results and not from their successes, but also from their failures and from the fact that they were not daunted by these failures, that they still found the courage to go on and to move forward. They learned how to take a loss. Bryant Honda of Honda Corporation, he was mocked and ridiculed by his classmates. Some of you won't start an online business, won't start a YouTube channel, won't start a podcast, won't do something because you're afraid of ridicule and criticism and being mocked and laughed at by your peers. And I know that because I read every single comment in my comment section, and I know that to be true. And as a result of that, you're not beginning the process of your work to be great, and for those people to be humbled and to realize that, wow, I underestimated that person and look at where they are today. What if I had never decided to start doing YouTube videos? What if I had never decided to do a blog before that years and years ago and do online tutorials? There are literally tens of thousands of people's lives that have been impacted by that over the years. And it's something I don't take for granted. In the same way that I know that if Bryant Honda of Honda Corporation had taken the scorn and ridicule of his classmates to heart, he would have never been able to sell his designs to Toyota. He would have never been able to found Honda Corporation, which ended up ultimately helping with the economic recovery of Japan over the course of World War II. He would have never ended up from the failure of his factory closing down because of the earthquakes and the bombings, been able to then go on to invent the Super Cub, the first electric motorized bicycle, which was the predecessor to the modern day motorcycle, moped, and scooter. And as a result, an entire industry was born. Literally millions of jobs created over the decades and billions of dollars made because of one man's determination, one man's courage to not give up, to not fall and cave to the peer pressure and ridicule of his classmates, his professors who mocked him and told him he would be a failure, these academics, these wise men and women on the mountaintop that say that you can't do this or you can't do that. He proved them wrong, he endured, and he figured it out, and he accepted all of his failures along the way and had the courage to persevere and to move forward. And as a result, it gave birth to an entire industry, helped with the economic recovery of Japan, and changed millions of lives forever. That matters. That's a great entrepreneur story. There are so many stories like that, from Henry Ford to Bryant Honda to Steve Jobs to Mark Zuckerberg. There are so many opportunities to fail, and you will fail at something. But what you do with that failure, when you learn to take a punch, when you learn to move on, when you learn to endure, you find the lessons in what it takes to be truly successful. And that is to not quit on yourself. You can actually pivot on an idea. You can give up on an idea, but don't give up on you. Do not give up on yourself as the architect of the future and the life that you want. As long as you're living intentionally and you're working for what you want and you're measuring your progress along the way and you're taking in the lessons and you're learning when to pivot, when to change instead of when to be consistent and double down on something that isn't working, then you always have a shot at getting the result that you're looking for, as long as you can take it in stride and you can learn those very valuable life lessons. I mean, wow, if I decided that not getting views, not getting subscribers just like that was what should discourage me, I don't know what would have happened with the Create Awesome community that I've built and everything else. I would have been successful at something else because that's who I am deep down. But I'm glad that I'm successful at these things and all the other things that I'm doing, because these are the most accurate reflection of who I am and my ability to use all of my skills. Do you know why I love making YouTube videos? The reason that I love making YouTube videos is because I'm not limited in the way that I would be if I was just a graphic designer or just a web designer. I get to do what I love in the same way that I do for my clients and the companies that I work with. I get to utilize my skills as a researcher. I get to utilize my skills as a writer. I get to utilize my skills as a communicator, as a visual artist, as a video producer, as an editor, as a photographer. I get to use every single bit of talent and ability and skill that I've cultivated over 32 years and throw them at one thing, and get to see a result that is the most accurate reflection of what's in my soul in terms of those abilities, what's in my DNA. And I get to do something with my own hands and my mind that also has the ability to impact and change others and empower them to do their very best in what they want to do by providing them with education, motivation, resources, and a process. Do you realize how gratifying it is to do the things that I love, not be limited and be put into a box, and to get to express that and share it with the world and know that makes a difference in even one person's life, let alone 100 people, let alone 10 people, let alone 10,000 people, let alone 100,000 people, let alone 1,000,000 people, that is a success and a thing that I don't take for granted, and that would never have happened if I gave up on me. I could have given up on anything, and I've pivoted before. There are types of content where I said, you know what, I don't feel that that was my best, and let me scrap that and go back to the drawing board. There are things that I haven't brought back. There are things that I won't be bringing back. There are things that I'm going to change. Primary example, Ask Roberto. I didn't like the format because I was like, it wasn't different enough from anything else that I've done, and it didn't feel enough like a show for me to feel like I wanted to continue that. So I scrapped that, and I've gone back to the drawing board of how do I make a show. I have scrapped other things in the past. Dear Entrepreneurs is something that I know season 3 will be going probably to Facebook instead of YouTube, where I think that it actually can reach even more people and it can perform differently. And I think that by making people share it and share the stories and share the things that I'm talking about, I think that that might have even more value, and it might create active participation in a way that YouTube just doesn't because of how people utilize Facebook. That's a pivot and a change. And it's not predicated on views or subscribership. It's that I think about the intent behind this series, what I want to do with it, how I want it to impact people. And I've decided that a platform shift next season is what's going to be the best for it. And I think that there's some added value there. And I think that the direction Facebook is going is really interesting. So I want to have something unique to that ecosystem that I'm providing value in. And it's things like that. And so I encourage all of you to reevaluate how you're looking at success. I've already told you, my greatest success in life is already behind me. It is the moment that I really learned to accept and love myself enough to want to be here every day and to work my hardest for the life that I want. That is it for me. Everything else is icing on the cake. It's like, I want to be here every single day. I now actively want to live forever. And that would not be a crucible for me. I'm now happy enough and love myself enough, and I'm self-actualized enough to where, living to the end of time, that's not a curse for me. I would just find awesome things to create. I could build dynasties as my hobby every millennia or so. And that would be cool. I can invent new art styles or learn every instrument as they come out. That would be cool for me. I'm good with it. I want to be here that much. I want to create value that much. I want to experience things and learn new things that much to where, I'm cool with not going anywhere. So that's a real thing. And it makes a difference because there was a point where that wasn't true. There was a point where I was like, oh, I can't wait to be done with this. That's real for me. And that's real for so many people. And I think that if you build out for yourself, your challenge in my mind is, if you've watched this far, I challenge you to spend the next few weeks really thinking about and architecting and designing and mapping out the life that you want. Really map it out. I mean, literally, even beginning to end, year by year, what you would have wanted to accomplish, what you would have wanted your life to look at, the places you've wanted to go, the type of people that you would have wanted to meet, the things that you want to have learned and experienced. I want you to really think hard about what a full life really looks like for you, and you'll find that job titles and salary earnings do not really factor into that. Those things might facilitate helping you get there, but there might be other things that can do that you love just as much and are just as valid, and you can be just as happy and just as successful and just as profitable doing what you love instead of doing crap that you hate, that doesn't add value to you, does not put you any step closer in the journey to the life that you want for yourself. And that is what I honestly wish for you, is the life that you genuinely want for yourself. So, question of the day. What is the thing that you're afraid of the most when it comes to failure and when it comes to what you feel you'll never achieve in your life? What does that fear really look like for you? I really want us to address that elephant in the room. What does that fear look like for you? For me, I think the thing that I'm probably most terrified of, the thing that I'm most afraid of, is probably not seeing things through in general. That's like a very abstract and very vague like thing. But for me, that is the most terrifying thing, is like, what if I don't change enough people's lives? What if I don't build something that actually outlives me for 100 or 1,000 years that made a real difference and impact in the world? That is like everything I do is driven by that singular fear, the fear of not leaving a legacy. That is everything that I live and breathe day in, day out, 365, 24/7, is the fear that when I'm done and 300 years from now and I'm, gone, that I didn't build anything and gift anything to the world that mattered and that lasted and that impacted people in a significant way or generationally. That is my deep, dark fear, and what like the opposite of success would look like for me. And so my day-to-day actions are driven by that singular fear. And that's very real for me, because I've had some close calls in life where, after wanting to be here even, like, wow, I could have been gone. And so that's very real for me, and that's why day in and day out I do the things that I do. If you've ever wondered what drives me, what motivates me, why I can work so hard and be so happy about it, because the alternative is completely unacceptable to me. The alternative is completely unacceptable for me. So I want to know, what does that look like for you? What is your greatest quote-unquote fear of failure, or what is it that if you don't achieve this success in life, that it would be devastating for you, that's the way you went out? Let me know in the comment section. Super dark, I know, we went there, but I feel like this was an important conversation to have, and I just feel that most people are not prepared to have it with you. And so I'm glad that I'm able to bring that different and unique value, and I really just hope you were ready for it. Anyway, like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other awesome stuff on the channel. Share this with a friend. I genuinely mean that. Not for me, but for them. As always, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and don't forget, create something awesome today. Take care.